Michael James is the author of the Introduction to Growing Grapes and Making Wine ebook, the Frugal Wine Sipper's Journal, the Wine Sipper's Dictionary, and the Wine Tips video series. In this video, we will briefly cover the following material: how to maximize taste, the sight, the swirl, the sniff, the sip, and the savor.
Once you have your grapes harvested, made into a vintage wine, bottled and labeled, it's time to savor that wonderful nectar. There's a way that you can maximize your enjoyment of any wine. It's referred to in the business, so to speak, of the 5 S's, which stands for sight, swirl, sniff, and finally sip and savor. This might seem very basic, but it will assure you of the maximum pleasure for each glass of wine that you want to enjoy. Step number 1, the sight. It's basic knowledge that there are 2 types of wine, red and white, with some variations of core colors in between. The color of the wine can tell you about its condition and its drinkability.
Always judge the color against a white background so that the color is not influenced or shifted by a strong secondary color. Always try to look down through the wine while tilting the glass. While doing this, you're looking for 3 important factors.
One of the key points is clarity. What you're looking for is a liquid that's free of sediment. If you look through a glass of water that is filtered, you're not going to see any suspended particulate. See how clear that is? That's the condition you're looking for in a good glass of wine. Also, if it's a red wine, it should be a dark purple to reddish maroon color. If it has any brown color, this is a sign of oxidation, which will negatively affect the taste and the aroma of the wine. In white wines, the similar condition will produce an amber hue.
Color depth. There is a difference between color and hue. The best way to describe the difference is the following example. Red is a color, and hue are the variations or intensity of that color red. The darker the hue, the more intense you can expect the wine flavors to be. For instance, if you take white wines as an example, pale Pinot Grigio will appear a very light hue of gold, while Chardonnay is a deeper gold color. The hue is darker, and therefore the wine has a more intense flavor. The same holds true of red wines. Legs. Remember I told you to tilt the wine glass? This is to emphasize the trails of wine that slip down the sides of the glass. These legs, or tiers according to the French, are a sign of viscosity and body. The more legs, the heavier the body the wine will usually have.
Step number 2 is the swirl, and I would recommend that if you're pouring wine and you're trying to get the best enjoyment from it, only fill the glass up for the bottom 1/3, and there's a reason for that. Let's just talk about the swirl first. First of all, don't judge this step. A lot of people think this is the height of snobbery. The real truth is that it's very functional. The swirling process is used to create vapor in the wine glass to set up the smelling phase. The reality is that you don't smell the liquid, you actually smell the vapors that the liquid gives off.
There are 2 methods you can use to swirl your wine. Either one is acceptable. The first is to set the wine glass on a tabletop and swirl it clockwise or counterclockwise, and this will create adequate aromas for the next step. The second method is to pick up your glass by the stem and swirl the glass to create vapor. Don't hold the glass by the bowl because it will warm the wine unnecessarily. The only exception to this technique is if the wine is over-chilled, and this will prevent the aromas from escaping. In that event, use both hands and swirl the glass until sufficient aromas have developed.
Okay, step number 3 is the sniff. By testing the aroma of the wine, you'll get a sneak preview of what the wine has to offer. The reason why the sniff is so important is because our sense of smell is much more acute than our sense of taste. Additionally, the sense of smell is totally integrated into the tasting process. The aromas that the wines produce are distinctly different. So the sniff is important, and after you have swirled it, you want to make sure you take a good sniff.
The result can be varied. There are 2 categories of aroma. The first type is classified as fruity, and it is the major category to consider. It ranges from peaches to citrus fruit to berries. The second category can range from vegetables, herbs to minerals. The amazing fact is that once grapes have been fermented, the result can be far from the taste of the original grapes. Ever wonder why red wines are served in large bowl glasses and white wines use smaller bowls? That is because whites have less potent aroma, and by using a smaller bowl, you concentrate the aromas for the sniff phase of the tasting.
Step number 4 is the sip. What you want to do is just take a nice big sip and let it roll in your mouth and over your tongue. That's the best part.
By doing this, you should get the maximum impact of the wine by sampling the wine's flavor as well as its texture. The reason why you swish the wine around and over your tongue is because of the fact that different parts of the tongue detect different tastes. It has been shown that the tongue will detect acidity, sweetness, bitterness on different surface areas. Flavors have different layers, so the initial flavor can be followed by additional impressions.
Step number 5 is the savor. This is where you try to assess the wine's finish. Finish is best described as the aftertaste. When we taste something, you always get a first impression, but you notice when you eat food how there seems to be a secondary flavor, the thing that kind of lingers. With wine, the taste that lingers is called the finish, and it can be pleasant, it can be short, it can be long, it can be tangy, it can be crisp. Whatever your feelings are, that's what you want to describe it as. Those are the 5 S's, and if you employ them in your wine tasting efforts, you'll be pleasantly surprised at all the characteristics that will reveal themselves in your favorite wines. Even if you have no intention of making your own wine, the better your tasting skills, the more that you're going to appreciate a good bottle of wine. Enjoy, folks.
For a free 10-part mini course on how to grow grapes and make your own wine, go to my website at www.totalwinesystem.com and sign up. Do it now. Really, don't delay any longer, and if you do, you'll be well on your way to starting on an exciting and satisfying pastime that I have enjoyed over all these years. Go there now. It's free. You won't be sorry.